You ever feel like no matter what you do, life already made up its mind? It's that feeling, like you're pushing against something that won't budge. You try, you give your all, and still, nothing moves. You start questioning, maybe it's just not in the cards for me. Whether we blame the outside world or ourselves, the belief underneath is the same. There's nothing I can do to change this. Psychologists call this learned helplessness. It's not just mental, it's emotional exhaustion. A kind of soul-level resignation. So in this video, we're digging into why some people seem to handle those inevitable bumps in the road with this sense of control, while others feel constantly passed around by things outside themselves. We're delving into this concept called locus of control, which sounds a bit technical, but really, it's just your basic belief about whether the results you get in life are mainly down to your own efforts or they're decided by outside stuff like luck or fate or what other people do. It's such a fundamental thing. That feeling of having your hand on the wheel or just being like a passenger along for the ride. We're digging the difference between what specialists call an internal locus of control and an external one. Is it the world holding you back? Or is it the story you've been told about your own power? When life gets hard, we naturally look for the cause. And usually, we find it out there. The unfair boss, the broken system, the people who never showed up when we needed them, feeling like you're just caught up in things way bigger than you. Our emotional state is totally dependent on what happens outside us. And then there's that more general feeling that everything's awful and seeing yourself mainly as a victim, which can feel kind of validating sometimes. But it really cements that feeling of helplessness. He ruined my day. The economy is keeping me broke. I'm like this because of my parents. This is externalizing. It's a survival instinct, but it can also become a trap. When we give the outside world all the power, we give away our capacity to choose how we respond. Our emotional life becomes a mirror to circumstance. There's the straight-up belief that it's all just luck or fate or some higher power. So that's externalizing. Then, the other side, internalizing, but in a way that still feeds that external locus. How does that work? This is where we start using negative labels about ourselves. Thinking things like, I'm just stupid, or I've always been terrible at math, or I'm just not a lovable person. So, you're blaming yourself, but it's still external. It's internalizing in a disempowered way. I've always been bad at relationships. I'm just not cut out for success. I'm too sensitive to handle real life. These labels feel honest, even noble, but often they're rehearsed stories we use to avoid the pain of trying and possibly failing again. They're used as reasons to quit. This is the story of Sonia Carson, the mother of Dr. Ben Carson, professor of neurosurgery, oncology, plastic surgery and pediatrics, and chief of pediatric neurosurgery at Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore. At 33, Ben Carson is the youngest chief of service in the hospital's history. Sonia Carson was a woman who lived at the intersection of extreme poverty, limited education, and systemic racism. And yet, she refused to accept a powerless narrative. She saw something in the homes she cleaned. The wealthier families read a lot and didn't watch much TV, so she came home and laid down Law for Ben and his brother, just 2 shows a week on TV, and 2 library books with handwritten reports every week, even though she couldn't really read them fluently herself. That's incredible dedication. Her sons hated it at first, but over time, they began to change. They became curious, more focused, more determined. She consistently pushed them, encouraged them, told them they were smart and could achieve anything if they worked hard. She instilled that belief, and it clearly worked. Ben, once called dummy by his classmates, began to rise, first in school, then in medicine, eventually becoming a world-renowned surgeon. Sonia didn't change their world. She changed what they believed was possible within it. She modeled an internal locus of control before her sons even knew what that meant. She showed them, you can't always change your conditions, but you can always change your response. And sometimes, that's where real transformation begins. What happens when you stop waiting for life to fix itself and start acting like you matter? What are the real tangible benefits that come from having that internal locus, that belief you can shape your life? Because as Dr. Carson's story shows, life doesn't just magically become easy. No, absolutely not. Even after all his success, he faced immense pressure in his career as a surgeon, the terrible grief of losing an infant daughter, and ongoing racial bias, like patients actually questioning if he was qualified just because he was black. That must have been incredibly difficult, but the crucial thing was how he dealt with it. He kept returning to one thing: what is in my control right now? Psychologists have studied this mindset for decades. People with a strong internal locus of control aren't delusional. They know life can be unfair, but they focus on what's possible rather than what's missing. They're more likely to take initiative, set goals, and pursue them. They're not immune to anxiety or depression, but they don't sit in it as long. They seek solutions, not just sympathy. Even health outcomes are better. They tend to exercise more, eat better, and follow up with doctors. They believe their actions make a difference, and so they act like they do. It's not magical thinking. It can be developed. And the flip side, an external locus. That's often associated with higher levels of depression, anxiety, and stress. If you feel like you're just a pawn in someone else's game, it's hard to feel motivated or optimistic, isn't it? But the really empowering takeaway here is that this isn't set in stone. Your locus of control isn't some fixed personality trait you're born with. It's more like a learned pattern of thinking. It's a choice. So if someone listening feels stuck in that helplessness, or maybe they're just sick of feeling that way, if you believed your choices actually mattered, what would you choose differently today? What are the concrete steps? Some practical things you can start doing to shift towards a more internal locus. Step 1 is basically identify those sabotaging thoughts. Become aware of the pattern. How do you do that? It's about catching yourself blaming things outside or even blaming fixed traits inside yourself. I can't because, for example, I can't feel calm because of how my partner acts. I can't succeed in school because the teachers are unfair. I can't be happy because I'm just too anxious. Recognizing when you're immediately defaulting to an external reason or an internal fixed state for why something isn't happening. Stop saying I can't and start asking, how could I? Step 2 is getting really clear on what you can control versus what you cannot control in a specific situation. Grab a piece of paper, draw a line down the middle. Let's say you were planning an important outdoor event, maybe a picnic or a hiking trip, and now a huge storm is rolling in. On the cannot control side, write the weather itself. Whether it rains, storms, travel delays caused by the weather, how others feel about the cancellation, the money already spent. You can't control Mother Nature. Wishing the storm away or getting upset about the forecast doesn't change the forecast. On the can control side, write your backup plan, how you communicate the change to others, whether you shift your mindset and stay flexible, your emotional response, frustration versus acceptance, how you creatively adjust. Maybe you reschedule or find a cozy alternative. Whether you let it ruin your day or make the best of it, that's where your energy belongs. not on resisting reality, but on responding to it with intention. When you get clear on what's out of your hands, you can stop wasting energy on resistance and start using it to create a new path forward. That shift alone is powerful. And the point is to focus your energy on the can control list. Put most of your time and effort there, not spinning your wheels worrying about the other side. Step 3 is about exploring and learning new skills. It's about cultivating curiosity. This is where you shift from feeling stuck to feeling curious. It's the "what else could I learn" moment. Let's say you're in a job that's unfulfilling, or worse, you've been laid off. It's easy to feel powerless or like your options are drying up. That deep sense of loss is real. But eventually, the next question becomes, what other skills could I learn that might open a new path? If your industry is shrinking, maybe it's time to explore something emerging. Maybe it's coding, marketing, or even something hands-on like carpentry or massage therapy. Not because you have to change everything overnight, but because curiosity creates options. And this applies beyond just work. If you feel stuck in meetings because you're nervous speaking up, the skill might be public speaking or confidence building. If your job is stressing you out, maybe you learn better time management, stress regulation, or even how to set boundaries. If you're underpaid, maybe the skill is negotiation. If you're overwhelmed by tech at work, maybe it's digital literacy or even just getting comfortable asking questions. The point is, a lot of situations that feel like permanent walls are actually just locked doors. And skills are the keys. Maybe after a breakup, the skill is learning better communication or understanding relationship dynamics. If you have panic attacks, the skill might be learning specific coping techniques. If you think you're bad at math, maybe the skill is exploring different ways of learning it that work better for your brain. So many problems might have solutions that just involve skills we haven't learned yet. That's the idea. A lot of limitations feel fixed only because we haven't yet found or learned the skill to overcome them. And the final step, number 4. Step 4 is the commitment. Choose to take action. Remember, the goal here is to shift your thinking. We can't always control what happens to us, the external stuff, but we almost always have some control over our reaction to it, how we think about it, how we feel about ourselves because of it. For example, if you failed a test, instead of instantly blaming the unfair test or thinking "I'm just stupid," you shift. You focus on what you can do. I can review the mistakes I made. I can ask the teacher for help understanding this concept. I can change how I study next time. You focus your energy on those controllable, proactive steps instead of just reacting passively. It's about moving from reaction to response, from feeling like a victim of circumstance to being an active agent in your own life. We've really dug into this difference between an internal locus of control, that belief in our own power to influence things, and an external one where we feel like life just happens to us, and we've seen how leaning towards that internal side is generally linked with better outcomes, more achievement, better health, more resilience when things get tough. And conversely, how that external focus can leave us feeling more helpless, stressed, and maybe anxious. It's about finding that sweet spot, isn't it? Accepting what you truly can't change, putting your energy into changing what you can, and, hopefully, gaining the wisdom to know the difference between the two. Try using that locus of control exercise we talked about. Next time you're frustrated with a relationship issue or a work problem or even just a difficult feeling, try mapping out what's in your control and what isn't. And maybe just pick one small thing from the can control list to focus on. Even a tiny step can start to shift that feeling. It's about taking back the reins, even in small ways. So here's something to maybe mull over after this. Now that you understand a bit more about the power of your own mindset, your locus of control, What's one area of your life where you're going to consciously choose to focus your control? And what's one small concrete action you'll take, maybe even today? That's a great question to end on. Really makes you think.